Hey everyone, my name is Chris Lambert. On this channel, we talk Kanye West, and today we're talking the question, is Kanye West a good designer? This was a question posed by Sarang Sheth for Yanko Design. And I started reading this article. I got through the first few paragraphs and was like, you know what? Let's get into it. This seems nuanced enough and thoughtful enough that it's definitely worth considering some of these points and just seems kind of educational. I know a lot of us are here for the music and a lot of us are here for the fashion, but may not know as much about like design and actual like fashion knowledge. So I feel like these kinds of posts are, growing personal developments. We can learn something together. So getting into it, on any random given day, if you walked up to me and asked me if Kanye West was a good designer, my answer would be a resounding no. That's not me talking. That's the article talking. By my own personal standards, Kanye West designs are odd to look at, make me physically uncomfortable. I'm just now waiting for this to get clipped out of context and have me wondering if the prolific artist even knows anything about aesthetics. I think he does. Then it occurred to me, in a world where attention is currency, the fact that I'm sitting in front of my computer on a Saturday night writing about Kanye's designs obviously means he was really good at garnering attention and being the topic of conversation. To a brand, that's as good design as it can ever get. So it's at least nice that the author's challenging their beliefs, right? Like, no. Well, actually, it goes beyond just how I personally feel, and I'm going to consider some other elements and aspects to this conversation. As designers, we're instilled with a certain set of values that make us prioritize the consumer. Our immediate focus is always to solve the consumer's problem, and a product that does so is objectively good design. However, what we're never taught is that our client, the person who actually pays us the money, is a consumer too. If your product makes life better for end users but bankrupts the company selling the product, is it really a good design? Good design has multiple stakeholders: you, your team, your client, your planet, and your user. Everyone should stand to benefit from your work. That core belief is what made me question Kanye's work much more objectively. Just because I absolutely hate the Yeezy shoes and slippers doesn't take away from the fact that they're wildly successful products, which means customers love them, the brands benefit from them, and so does Kanye. Much to my disappointment, that's a win-win-win. However, we as designers aren't wrong for looking for logic in Kanye's work, but more on that later. First, let's try and ask ourselves a pretty crucial question. Is Kanye West really any different from other designers? Good question, Try to think of as many famous contemporary designers as you can, and most of them should have one thing in common: eccentricity. The kind of eccentricity that also ends up reflecting in some of their best work. Geary's design of the Bilbao Guggenheim is visual madness, as is Gaudi's Sagrada Familia. I went to the Sagrada Familia in 2015, and it was wild. Like, as stunning as it was to see it on the outside, I don't think I was quite prepared for the lighting and illumination on the inside. Just the atmosphere created by the amount of stained glass and the amount of windows and where the sun was coming in. It was astounding. Kareem Rashid has made some questionably odd-looking yet iconic products in his career, as has Philippe Starck. Why do we laud their work as hallmarks of great design, but look at the same level of creative eccentricity in Kanye as the mad ramblings of a non-designer? Well, I think I answered our question right there. There's a weird elitism at play here. So again, kudos to the author. I haven't read past this part, but I admire that they were able to kind of like step back and look at this from a little less biased and more objective point of view. Kanye's designs don't receive the same treatment as Gaudi or Kareem Rashid because Kanye never went to design school. Try and put that rather odd distinction aside, and your argument really falls apart, doesn't it? We really don't cut Kanye the same amount of slack because he's also a controversial figure in real life, and since he's more primarily known for his music, it's natural to think that his design is some sort of side gig for him. But, apples to apples, how much more different is Kanye's design aesthetic from, say, Luigi Kalani or Zaha Hadid? Don't the Yeezy line of footwear looks just about as awkwardly organic and alien-like as Zaha Hadid's own architectural pieces? And you can see the comparison here, right? Like, you have a lot of that same flowing lines and these like elevations. Like, you're getting elevation and depth on the shoe. So you're kind of having the swirly lines, like the ups and downs, and you get that same kind of fluidity. It's almost like seeing the wind or seeing water moving, but it's in this stadium or in this shoe. Okay. Own architectural pieces. I dare you to look at Qatar's Al Rakra Stadium and tell me it doesn't have the same alienish form language as the Yeezy foam runners. Or at Kalani's approach to form generation and tell me it's just about as bizarre and visceral as West's. Kanye isn't a designer in the puristic sense. He probably doesn't stick to a rigid design process. He probably doesn't use Photoshop or Autodesk Fusion 360, and I bet he doesn't quite know a thing about 3D printing. He doesn't have clients from hell who ask for 20 iterations before selecting the first concept direction you had originally showed them. And even though this hurts, he probably doesn't have to follow up for payments. However, no, he's not the one that follows up for payments. Others are the ones who follow up for payments. However, he's incredibly, or interviews. He's also incredibly expressive, knows how to create iconic products, and from whatever I've found online, his shoes tick all the right boxes. They're comfortable, durable, and people love to wear them. So why do we hate them? To understand Kanye, you first need to understand the cultural crossroads we are at. So I haven't read this section yet. Remember the Sony PlayStation 5, the Cybertruck, the cheese grater Mac Pro, Dyson's air purifying headphones? They all had one thing in common. They were deeply polarizing. Everyone had an opinion about them, and just like putting the pineapple on pizza or arguing whether a random dress was white and gold or blue and black, they had the internet up in arms. Similarly, you either like the Yeezy foam runners or hate them. There's no in between. This is debates in my household as well. That seems to be the cultural pit stop humanity is currently at. I've often wondered what design movement we are currently in. Looking back at the past, you have movements like Art Nouveau, Art Deco, Dadaism, Bauhaus, I don't know Bauhaus, Memphis 2.0, Blobject, I don't know those last three at all, and most recently, minimalism. So which movement are we currently in? Based just on past couple of examples and also just the cultural moment we live in, I like to dub this phase polarism. In a world filled with 7 billion people, it's practically impossible to please everyone. So the best you can do is garner a reaction, positive or negative. Our internet-connected world also has a tendency to jump from one subject to another at lightning speed. So a good design by that very standard is a design that occupies neural space for as long as possible. And the chances of something lingering around in your head are only maximized when the internet is debating, arguing about it. You're forced to pick sides, and you're forced to vehemently defend your side with the kind of mad fervor often reserved for religion or politics. As bad as that sounds, you have to admit that it's kind of genius too. And can be fun. As stupid as online discourse can sometimes be, and as infuriating as it can sometimes be, sometimes just like fun about being polarized and arguing with somebody on the internet. At least I think so. As long as it doesn't go too far. Like, as long as people are sticking to the topic and just being like, what do you mean it's not great? It's awesome. Or what do you mean it's awesome? It's stupid. As opposed to like people getting weirdly and oddly personal and attacking. But when you just find people that you can like yell at politely, that's so much fun. This isn't to say that every single designer must try to execute some Machiavellian plan and divide the internet with everything they do. I strongly disagree with this approach, and to be brutally honest, I don't think this is what Kanye is trying to do either. His approach to design, just like with his music, is to create something iconic that gets everyone talking. A design analysis of the Yeezy sliders. The Yeezy sliders? The Yeezy sliders. Has anyone ever called them the Yeezy sliders? Okay. The original idea for this piece came from my good friend John Murillo, who created an incredible video on exactly the same topic where he analyzed Kanye's work from both micro and macroscopic views. The video is right up there for you to watch if you're interested in hearing what he has to say. However, without further deliberation, let's quickly perform a design analysis on Kanye's work. I've never read a design analysis before or been part of a design analysis, so here we go. To be honest, there are a few things you need to consider while analyzing Kanye's design portfolio, if you will. For starters, he doesn't work alone. He does have a design team led by Noor Abbas, formerly of Louis Vuitton and Uniqlo, and Stephen Smith, who previously worked at Adidas and Nike, who help him realize his vision and bring a level of design and manufacturing expertise to the picture so the Yeezy products are still rooted in feasibility and reality. However, to appreciate Kanye's unbridled rawness, it's important to also realize that he's never been restricted the way conventional design teams have. Adidas famously collaborated with Kanye on the one condition that he had complete and full creative control, which sort of creates a unique set of conditions that not many designers today get to experience. Loads of capital and zero constraints. It's natural for designers to dial down their wild ideas, fearing client backlash, but Kanye and his team have absolutely no such qualms. This is what unrestricted creativity looks like, and if you hate it, I can't help speculate that you're probably a little jealous too. Maybe some self-talk there? Kanye's biggest crime was making design unboring again. Ooh. Back to the footwear themselves. John makes a few rather interesting points in his video, which I'm about to conveniently borrow for the purpose of this article. He highlights the similarities between Kanye's footwear and the Cambrian era. It's just not a sentence I ever thought. I never thought. That's not a sentence I ever thought I'd seriously say or much less read. Wow. Okay. Highlights the similarities between Kanye's footwear and the Cambrian era. And I get it. Because design can come from anything, right? Like you could be like, oh, I'm going to design this t-shirt line by studying like cave paintings and the lifestyle of humans 53,000 years ago in our nomadic tribal foundations, and just like have that be kind of the design aesthetic as you work on things. So like Cambrian era, I get it, but also like what a just outrageous thing to say. A 53.4 million year long period that saw an absolute explosion in marine animal evolution. I mean, you can see the Yeezys behind me. Does it just look like a wall of Cambrian era marine animal evolution? Oh, that's so good. Okay. That's so good. This was a time that saw probably the wildest kind of animals as nature played the role of a mad scientist, developing some incredibly unique and terrifying looking sea creatures just to see what would stick. You had animals with shells, 8 legs, spiked backs, exoskeletons, the works. All these animals existed in roughly the same era, was it called the Cambrian era, and provided incredible diversity to the oceans before oxygen levels drastically fell, wiping them all out. Kanye's works feel like the Cambrian era footwear design too, with this explosion of a new aesthetic that sort of defies logic, but pushes the conversation forward in unique ways. All right, so we made it to the explanation of the comparison, and I get it. It's very dramatic. Like you might as well just be like, is this the Big Bang of footwear? Like the Big Bang was when the universe was created, though. I use the term defies logic rather loosely here because logic seems to be the only weapon designers have in their case against Kanye. Every designer is taught the Gestalt laws of visual perception. Gestalt is such a cool word too. 7 laws that teach us how to guide the eyes of the users, employing different ways to entice, educate, and engage people who come across our work. For the most part, it seems like Kanye's designs don't necessarily adhere to these principles strictly. They look like they're alien objects from an alien world where sense and symmetry have little value. Do you know how happy Ye would be reading that? He's just like, alien, yes. To which my immediate devil's advocate question is, why does a shoe need to have sense or symmetry? The last time I checked, the overarching purpose of a shoe was simply to be comfortable, fashionable, and a commercial success. I mean, yeah, sure. Cambrian era sea creature and the 450. Kanye is an incredibly outspoken person too, as Mariello's video highlights a snippet of the rapper absolutely lambasting Lady Gaga, who is briefly the creative director. I didn't expect this to come up either. At Polaroid, I like some of the Gaga songs, but what the does she know about cameras? He asks confusedly. While he's absolutely right, he also vindicates himself in the eyes of the design community. A pair of shoes is arguably less complex than a camera. If Kanye was left to his devices to redesign Polaroid's imaging systems or its camera's user interface, chances are he'd make an absolute mess of it. That's an area that requires design expertise, systems thinking, constant reiteration, user behavior research, workflow analyses, and a lot of UI UX work. That aspect of design is best left to designers who are trained, experienced in those very domains, just the same way you would have asked Kanye to design the docking interface on the International Space Station. But you know he would make that look awesome. He has it way over his head because he knows exactly where he brings value. Kanye's creative process. Ooh. This is a cool just flow of images. How many shoes? Like, this is a lot of Yeezys. Is that every Yeezy? Like, pretty much, for the most part, every Yeezy. Right? Start all the way through. That's impressive. Like, what a gift this is. Whew, okay. One of the interesting new approaches Kanye brings to design is his ability to collaborate. Music in itself is a collaborative process, and for Kanye, the design process is relatively similar to jamming with other musicians. Everyone knows their roles and exactly where to contribute. A drummer doesn't just pick up an electric guitar on a whim, or worse, grab the microphone and start singing the lead vocals. A band is a classic example of a hive mind that works like a singular organism, with everyone contributing in their own way towards an end goal. And for Kanye, that same approach carries forward to design too. Kanye being an outsider is actually a great thing in that regard, just for all the unknowns he brings. Steve Jobs, an outsider, completely revolutionized the music industry and music ownership too. Besides, design is an inherent role. And, like, not to say like Steve Jobs was primarily in the music industry. What they're saying is Steve Jobs, by implementing like the iPod, right? That revolutionized the music industry and music ownership, leading then to iTunes and then Apple Music. Just like the iPod and iTunes were two of the biggest things to happen to music and absolutely shaped music consumption for the 21st century, as well as did like Napster and Kazaa, LimeWire, all those back in the day. I'm forgetting one. It was Kazaa, LimeWire, and what was the other one? More, not Morbius, not Morpheus. That's gonna bother me. But yeah, Steve Jobs had a huge impact on the music industry, even though he wasn't like a music industry person. Besides, design's inherent role is to support and supplement other professions. So as long as you're creative and you got a team that can take care of the complexities, you can design. Sure, there's also the fact that your designs have to be user-friendly, which is why Kanye doesn't manufacture the shoe himself, but rather has a team of fashion designers helping him execute his vision. There's a collaborative process where art and usability come together seamlessly. It's pretty much the perfect melting pot. So is Kanye a good designer? Subjectively, I don't see myself wearing the stuff he makes, but that can't possibly be a referendum on his design abilities. But why can't everybody just have this insight on things? I don't wear wristwatches, but that doesn't mean Audemars Piguet. Oh God, I'm so poor. I don't know how to say these things. Audemars Piguet and Richard Mille make badly designed timepieces. Personal choice is never a parameter for judging something objectively. Kanye may not be your breed of designer, but he's without a shred of a doubt an incredibly talented creator. Sure, you could argue objectively even that his brand of design borders more on art than it does on puristic user-centered design, and truth be told, in the fashion industry, there's nothing wrong with that at all. If Kanye ever designs MRI machines or stealth aircrafts, I'll be the first one to call BS on his work. I believe Kanye's work is marvelous because it makes me question my own approach to analyzing design, and it also lets me reconnect with modern pop culture. Yes, the foam runners look weird to me, and maybe they do to you too, but if your only thought is, why are these shoes shaped like that, just try asking yourself the opposite question. Why aren't other shoes shaped like this too? If there's one single takeaway from this piece, it's that let's not equate different with bad. Woo! Okay, that was cool. I'm glad we read this, even though it took 19 minutes. So that's it for this video. Until next time, stay wavy and, keep it loopy. Cheers.